Hello, my name is Ficus and today I'm gonna start talking about my OC stuff. First, thanks for being here. Second, the settings of my story, so to speak, is a world that was made for a god of love between men. Which means that there's a lot of gay stuff going on probably, because, well, I personally think that there's not enough gay stuff going on in this world, but I digress. But I also have a lot to talk about because, well, I am that person who have dozens, and I mean dozens of OCs, all with their own stories, as well as world building stuff, magic system, political system of countries over periods of time, and so on. So today I'm gonna start to set the stage, so to speak, and explain the basic things, like how world was created, by whom, and all that. Because, well, it explains a lot and kinda needed to understand stuff in the future, so yeah. Without further ado, let's get into it. In the beginning there wasn't really anything, only a place filled with pure energy. That's a serial realm, and at some point two beings manifested there. They are called Order and Chaos or Primordial Gods, but they represent a much broader concept than these. They're just names that were given to them by humans. Primordials are embodiment of basically the cycle of existence, creation, destruction, all that. Very original, I know, so you can probably understand all that already. Another thing that's not a light versus darkness situation. Primordials are not enemies, neither of them are good or bad because, again, they are embodiments of the way everything works basically. So Order and Chaos just chill in the ethereal realm, with nothing but energy for who knows how much time, so inevitably they got bored. While thinking what to do to entertain themselves, Primordials decided to collect as much energy as they can in one go and send it beyond the borders of realm. That resulted in big explosions that created physical side of existence. Side note, I like to include a bit of science stuff into my stories, so yeah, it's a Big Bang Theory situation going on here. Obviously Primordials were elated, watching stars ignite and planets form, knowing that sooner or later they will entropy back into chaos to restart the cycle all over again. Now another side note, to move forward a bit of world building. Energy that exists in ethereal realm called divine energy. It cannot exist in physical realm because it's too powerful and too unstable. So when it crosses into physical side, this energy turns into ethereal energy, which is basis for magic. Ethereal energy can then be transformed into other regular energy, like fire, light, kinetic and potential energy, all that stuff. And a little of divine energy turns into a lot of ethereal energy, and a little of ethereal into a lot of regular. Why is this important? Because alongside universe they were born other creatures. They will be named Leviathans. Primordials were not very impressed with their existence because, well, they basically the same thing as Order and Chaos, an energy being basically, only much weaker, and most of Leviathans died in mere seconds, and those who didn't started to consume one another to prolong their existence. And although they were not very impressive to Primordials, Leviathans had very special things about them. Before all divine energy turned into ethereal energy in the moment when the universe was created, some of it was trapped in physical matter. And that what gave rise to Leviathans, this quote-unquote core, was their power resource, and it was the only thing that is left after a death of Leviathans, with remaining divine energy still in there. So when their remains started to be spread all over the universe, shards sometimes got entangled into stuff that will become planets. Thus, the remains became part of those planets as well, after which divine energy was slipping from the shards, turning to ethereal energy and thus saturating a world with it, which in turn started to influence the conditions on planets. One such world had all factors come together to create something completely new. Organic life had emerged, and unlike with Leviathans, Primordials were overjoyed with this life, cause there never was anything remotely like this. That said, never Order and Chaos thought that such tiny creatures that live for but a fraction of time that they have been around will lead to anything else. which obviously they were wrong. Millennia after millennia, disaster after disaster, life bounced back, developed and became more complex. After billions of years, primordials became quite invested into this one world, so after one particularly bad extinction event, where most of living creatures were wiped out, Order and Chaos were worried that this is the end, and what they would do if this is the case. So they created avatars in the physical world, gave them powers, sentience, and a task to watch over the world and not let life to disappear. And avatars did the job pretty well. They nurtured life on Terra, which is the name that will be given to this world by humankind, but not unlike their creators, avatars of primordial gods became bored. They were surrounded by living creatures, but there were no one to fully comprehend them and their efforts. So avatars desired to try to create someone who could understand them fully. After a couple of tries, they were able to do it by giving challenges that were just not enough to wipe out a species, but that will force them to develop intelligence. That's how humans emerged. And in the beginning, avatars were hidden, doing things from afar, and waited for a moment to reveal themselves. Once the time came, avatars changed their form to human bodies, so nobody actually knew how they looked like before, and assumed names of Adam and Eve. In doing so, they tried to create a sense of familiarity with humans so they wouldn't be scared and will accept Adam and Eve as one of them. And humans did accept them, but not as equals, but as gods. Avatars didn't mind it that though, because humans did so and understood what they were doing, and that was what Adam and Eve wanted all along. After some time, full religion was formed around avatars, with rituals and beliefs, which slowly started to spread to other aspects of human life, although there were no other deities. Well, that's until there was. As it turned out, when a lot of sentient minds put their thoughts, feelings and emotions into things, combined with ethereal energy, gods and spirits started to appear. They were representing different aspects of human life, from manifestations of natural phenomenon to embodiment of emotions. Between humans and gods formed kind of symbiotic relationships, for gods harvested power to exist from human worship, and in exchange they used part of this power to help humans. And with that, time known as a golden age of humanity began. And well, of course it couldn't last forever. Physical and ethereal realms started to drift apart, which is bad, because physical realms cannot exist without being close to ethereal one, because it was not naturally there, and if they will drift apart, physical realm will collapse. There were some other ways to solve it, but Adam and Eve decided to give up their existence to hold realm together. They gave up their bodies to create a link, their powers to well power it, and their memories to preserve all the knowledge that they had about Terra, and well, not to be trapped in inanimate objects forever. They did it because after billions of years, frankly, they simply grew tired, and with both gods and humanity, the world was flourishing, so Adam and Eve considered their task completed, and wanted to rest. Primordials granted them their wish, and avatars were no more. And obviously, practically immediately after that, everything went downhill. Although they were not quote-unquote officially rulers, they kinda were. Adam and Eve were the ones to answer questions, prevent and stop conflicts, the ones who upkept balance between gods and mortals. With them gone, not only there were no one to do all that, certain gods started to bicker with one another for the title of the God of Terra, which pretty soon turned into the Divine War. And because gods cannot be killed, only die if forgotten or stop being worshipped, some gods started to weaponize their followers. Relationship between mortals and divine changed. In attempts to quote-unquote kill other gods, some of them started to demand complete devotion to them and only them, or only to a group of allied gods. They started to withhold their powers from mortals who grew to rely on divine help. And more gods were entangled into the war, the more gods disappeared, the more chaotic life of humans became. And primordials of course noticed that and couldn't just let it happen. Maybe because they felt guilty for indirectly causing this by sending their avatars, or maybe they simply didn't want to lose their entertainment. Who knows? But in all actuality, humans are more important than gods, for gods need human worship, and thus if humankind cease to exist, gods will follow. To prevent it, Order and Chaos created a set of rules that boils down to gods cannot interfere in human life majorly. I'll explain the meaning of this not today. They engraved these rules upon the link that now holds realm together, and called it Veto. Then they declared that all gods must submit to it. They needed to do it willingly, because it's basically like a legal contract. If you were forced to sign it, then contract is not legitimate. But if you willingly signed it, then whatever it is, it'll hold up. Here's the same. If a god will be forced into submissions to the veto, then if this god will become powerful enough, they will be able to break free. But if it will be willingly, then nothing can be done about it. With that said, Primordials gave a time limit of 1000 years for all gods to accept the veto, which is a lot because Primordials do not understand the concept of time very well. Even for immortal gods it's a lot of time, so although the price for not submitting is, well, death, for Order and Chaos are only beings that are capable to directly kill a god, there was more than enough time to still destroy everything. But it didn't happen, because with the demand, Order and Chaos also had a proposal. Everyone who thinks that they deserve to be the god can come to them and say why. If they were to succeed, then Primordials would create a world for that god where they can go with all their allies and followers. The price for failing is, once again, death. A lot of gods who were main instigators of war have attempted, and a lot of those who were suffering from the war did the same. So with a lot of gods gone, either because they passed or failed, situation became better. Not good, but there were no more threats of complete destruction. That's why, although Divine War continued, Primordials did not interfere more. And so a lot of gods have failed, but a lot have passed. One of whom, as you can probably understand, was Eros, the god of love between men. That's how the world of his was created. Side note, Primordials did make changes to new worlds that are needed for them to be self-sustaining. So yes, there is a way to reproduce in there with only men. And no, it is not an Omegaverse, but that's a topic for another day, thanks. And well, that's it for the story part. I'm now gonna talk a little bit about the designs of Order and Chaos a bit. I was drawing them in the back if you haven't realized it, cause I like to design characters, so here we go. First is that those are not actually Primordials themselves, just basically puppets. You can see it more with Order cause they have literal strings attached. Chaos have this gooey stuff coming from the back and that forms their body, and well, the eyes behind both of them to show that there's something more, so to speak, behind them, and this more is Primordials themselves, with again, these being just puppets. Then I try to show their nature, so to speak, through their designs. Order is structured, everything understandable, while Chaos is not. Their body is constantly fluctuating and changing. Also, Chaos's body is a black hole. That's why they're black, not because of the color, but because of lack of color. Also, I did all body of Chaos as black hole, which makes them kinda too much to look at, but that's the point, because well, Chaos. Also, gooey stuff comes from the bottom, makes up their body and then gets absorbed into the black hole on the top. You can ask if their body all black holes and how this is even working, and the answer to this is it just does, don't think about it too much, okay? Now, contrary, Order is white because they are all colors of the light. You can also see faint rainbow coming from the sphere on the top, as if light was put through a prism and created a rainbow. Also, the sphere and rings looks kinda like an atom, which was not intentional, but I think it fits perfectly. I also wanted to show that they are not enemies through their designs. And first, you have a bunch of similarities. Both have 6 arms, sphere sinks on top, bunch of eyes on top and bottom of the puppets' bodies. Because they come from one origin, just express themselves differently. I will explain what does it mean, not today, because it's involved world building and magic system and a whole bunch of explanation. And the second thing to show the similarities is yin and yang situation, but not with black and white, but with their secondary colors. Order have golden and Chaos have red. Order's eyes are red and Chaos's eyes are golden. You could have also noticed that I'm basically redesigning them right now because I've been using their first versions as references basically. I'm doing it because, well, first of all, I kinda rethought the lore a little bit and so I did changing according to that, but also I wanted to make them a little bit more detailed, because I drew this some time ago, not so much, but still. And although I do like the general way where this is going, I do think that the second version is a big improvement. And there's that. Thanks for watching, please tell me what you think of this story and their designs. Feel free to stick around, thanks again and bye!